Hello, welcome back. So in this part, we will see the classifications of compression member based on the length. So compression member can be classified as short compression member. So in case of short compression member, for an idea, I can say that if we are using steel of grade 250 MPa, so in this case, if we find out the length of compression member, so length of compression member in this case can be given as 88.5 R. I think this will be the value. So 88.5 R. So this value is calculated based on this value. So how we arrive at this value 88.5, we will see that later. But for an idea, we can say that if the length of member is up to this value, in this case, R is called the radius of gyration. Radius of gyration. The radius of gyration, well, what is radius of gyration? Uh, in case of, the radius of gyration can be, it can be represented as the least lateral dimension. Least lateral dimension. Well, when we use steel sections like, say, if we use L, or if we use say any if we use any kind of section, in that it is very difficult to find out which one is the least lateral dimension. So that is why least lateral dimension can be represented by the radius of gyration, and we can find out radius of gyration value directly from the steel table. So length of member calculated from this formula. So up to this length, the member will be termed as short compression member. And if the member is having length up to this value, then we can say that the failure, failure in the member will occur completely by the squashing. And as I said, the squashing failure is the ideal failure, but I can say that the length which may be obtained from in this case, like the length I just said, 88.5 R. So length obtained from this uh, formula, it will be so small that it is very difficult to use completely short compression member practically. And that is why I can say that most of the member, maximum compression member, they are actually they actually don't fall in this category. So the next category which we are going to discuss is long compression member. So long, or sometimes we call it cylinder compression member. So in this case, in the cylinder member, what happens is the failure will not occur due to squashing, but it will occur because of the buckling. And when buckling occurs in the member, the strength of member is not utilized. I mean, the maximum strength can be Fy. So in case of buckling, there is no, the stress at which the column will buckle, that stress will be less than uh, the Fy value. So that's the stress at which the column will buckle. We generally call it FCR, and FCR is basically the critical stress. So this is the critical stress at which any column may buckle, and generally this stress is less than Fy, and that is why we say that strength of member is not utilized in case when the member is cylinder. So the another category in this classification comes as intermediate compression member. So as the name suggests, intermediate. So the failure in intermediate compression member will be a combined effect of crushing or squashing and the buckling. So there may be some, in the member which comes under the category of intermediate compression member. Well, in this, some fibers may have this crushing behavior, which means some members may get up to Fy value, while some fiber in the member will experience the critical stress less than Fy. while in this case Fy will be equals to Fcr. So if such combined effect occurs in the member, then the member is termed as intermediate compression member. So this intermediate compression member will fall between short and long. So the length of compression member up to, for the short compression member, it can be calculated as 88.5 times of R. Now coming to another topic, which is a very important. So basically, Euler. Sorry, this is not Euler. This is elastic buckling. So elastic buckling of Euler column. Well, basically the theory of buckling of column, it is given by a scientist. His name was Euler. So he has given this theory in the 17th century, and he has considered an ideal column. He has considered an ideal column, and he has conducted his test on it, and then he has given the formula to calculate the critical load which will buckle the column. So we will see that. So first of all, we will see the features of ideal column that he has considered. So he has considered this ideal column. Sometimes this ideal column is called Euler column also. So this column has the following feature, like he has considered that the material which is being used in the ideal column will be homogeneous and it will be isotropic. Then the next feature is material is perfectly elastic. It means the material is perfectly elastic, like in case of steel is elastic, and there is no imperfection, which means initially there is no curve. The member is perfectly straight. There is no initial twist, anything. So member is perfect. And also he has considered that there will be no eccentricity, which means the column he has considered, it will be subjected to axial load. So I have already explained what is the difference between axially loaded column and eccentrically loaded column. So he has considered that in his column there will be no eccentricity, and in the end he has considered that column ends are hinged. Well, the column may be, from the ends it may be hinged, or it may be fixed. So at the hinge he has considered that column will be hinged. It means the column can rotate from the ends, which means if it is buckling like this, it means it is rotating. It can rotate up to this. So that is why this angle is creating. If it is fixed, if it were fixed, then the buckling will occur like this. It means there is no angle like this. If it is theta, at this point it will be 0. So theta will be 0, but here theta will have some definite value under the load. So in his case, he has considered that the column is hinged from both ends, and column has no flaws. It has no flaw. No, the surface is smooth. Everything is smooth. So in the case of ideal column, he has considered these features. Now, after testing, he has given a formula. First of all, we will see that what is the theory which is being applied. So according to Euler, if a concentric load P is applied to the upper end of the member, which remains straight until buckling occurs when it is slightly bent as shown in the figure. So this is the case that he has considered. So in this case, he has said that if P is applied until the buckling occurs, then the buckling load can be given by this formula. And that buckling load or buckling capacity, or the load at which the buckling will occur, it will be called as Euler critical load. So that is the formula he has given using the calculation. So we are not going into the derivation, like how this formula is arrived. So I'm giving you this direct formula. So with his derivation, with his experiments, he has given this formula. We can find out the critical load at which the column will buckle, and this formula is mainly for the cylinder column. For a short column, we can easily calculate P as Fy into the cross sectional dimension. So the formula that Euler has given, it is basically for the cylinder and intermediate columns. Okay. So because now you can see it is very easy to find out. So all the things is about Fy value. So if this Fy is given, then we can easily find out in case of short column. But in case of long column, or in case of the column which is subjected to buckling, the finding that critical load which will buckle the member, it is very difficult. So with some conditions, with some features, he has given this formula. So if we try to modify it, or if we try to find out in terms of the average critical stress, like one thing in the formula you can see pi square EI by L square. Well, L is the length of member, and E is the Young's modulus of elasticity, and I is the moment of inertia of the column. So moment of inertia can be given by this formula, which is gross cross-sectional area multiplied by square of the radius of gyration. So this is the formula of moment of inertia. So if we put this value in the formula, we can say PCR sorry not I mean the if we try to find out the critical load in terms of the critical stress, well, stress can be calculated as force upon area. So force here is PCR by A. So we are calling this as sigma CR. So I will put here pi square EI by L square, and along with this I am putting this AG value. So now if I replace I by this formula, then we can get as pi square E A AG into R square upon AG into L square. So AG to AG, it will be cancelled out. So ultimately we will get this value, pi square E upon lambda square, because lambda is equals to L by R. Well, this lambda is called slenderness ratio, and it is basically the ratio of length of column, actually the effective length of column to the radius of gyration. So this is the formula that we can use to calculate this critical stress. So generally we use this critical stress in the equation. So now I'm showing you all this relation here. So you can see here sigma CR can be given by this formula, and or we can say all this calculation, you can see this. So all the calculation that I have done, I have provided here also. So ultimately we can say that critical stress at which buckling will occur, the formula for this is this one. And with this formula we can say that this critical stress depends inversely upon the lambda value. So if the lambda value is increasing, the sigma CR value will decrease. If it is, if the lambda value is decreasing, then it will increase. So it is inversely proportional to the lambda, and lambda is related to the length of the column. So now we can say that if the length is increasing, lambda will increase, and if lambda will increase, then sigma CR will decrease. So that is the relation that we have that Euler has given using his theory. So as I said, the critical stress is inversely proportional to the slenderness ratio. Slenderness ratio, it is defined by this L by R. L is the effective length, R is the radius of gyration. So now we will see that as I said earlier also, that up to a certain slenderness ratio, the maximum strength of member can be utilized, but we have to find out up to what ratio this will be there. So using this strength curve, it says column fails when the compressive stress is greater than or equal to the value defined by ACB. Well, in this strength curve, you can see that this point is A and this point is C. So up to point C, and corresponding to this, on this axis, you can see this is the value shown by for the lambda. So this lambda p is the critical slenderness ratio. So up to critical slenderness ratio, the strength, the maximum strength of the member can be Fy. But as the value of slenderness ratio is increasing, you can see the strength is decreasing. So it means that the value that we were calculating, sigma CR will decrease as the value of lambda will increase. And you can see lambda is directly dependent on the length of the member. So if the length is increasing, the buckling capacity will decrease. So that is the relation that is being given by this curve, and this curve, that is why it is called the strength curve. So here it says if FC is the compressive strength of the member. So if compressive strength is equivalent to Fy and Fy is equivalent to sigma CR, which is equals to 250 MPa, then we can easily find out the critical lambda. We sometimes call it lambda C or lambda P. So this critical slenderness ratio, we got the value which I have shown you earlier in case of compression member. I mean short compression member, the value that I gave you, that 88.5 R, it is actually came from this relationship. So critical lambda can be calculated from this value. And now how this formula came? Well, you can see here, sigma CR is equals to pi square E upon lambda square. So from this relation, the value is rearranged like this. And by putting the value of E, we already know the value of E as 2 into 10 raised to power 5. And if we know the value of Fy as 250, so in that case, the lambda critical slenderness ratio can be given as 88.85. It was actually 85. So this is how we have achieved at this, we have arrived at this value. So now we can say that up to this lambda value, we can say that member will utilize its maximum strength. But when the value of lambda increases from this part, if it is going in this direction, then the strength of member will decrease like this. So I hope it is clear. So this strength curve sometimes is represented in non-dimensional form also. So in the next part, in the next slide, I'm showing you. So this is the strength curve that we have used in the previous slide. If we replace Fy as 1, so this actually is the ratio Fc upon Fy. So this Fc upon Fy, if the ratio of Fc upon Fy is 1 and lambda is 1, so all the values are shown in the non-dimensional form. So lambda can be calculated by this. So this is the curve that we are looking at in the when we are dealing in the non-dimensional form. Otherwise, generally the curve is generalized from this parent curve only. So we will continue our discussion in the next part. Thank you.